hit it? Thank you. Alright guys, here, I'll pray real quick and then we'll take it. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you that we're all here. Thank you for just bringing us together. Thank you for this great Sunday. Thank you for all that you do for us, Lord. And thank you for just everything. Thank you for another day. And I ask right now as we go through your word that you may show us your truth and that we may be obedient to it. In your name, amen. Can you turn that fan off? Jonah, you're the best. Alright. Alright guys, so most of you guys play sports in here, right? You play soccer, play sport? Alright. It's okay though. I don't play sports either. But you guys, you play, you got swim, water polo, you got track, cross country, you got volleyball, and then you do choir. So I mean, there's.
Well, yeah, and I used to do water polo.
Oh, water polo as well. There you go, man. All you guys do sports. You guys know it takes a lot of work to be good at your sport. It takes a lot of effort and energy. You guys go to practice. You got to do all the extra work. And sometimes you guys do stuff outside of practice and outside of the stuff, right? You guys, maybe change the way you maybe eat or sleep or whatever it is you guys do, your habits. And maybe you look at people who've gone before you that are good at what you do. So like, for instance, if you're a basketball player, you might look at the Golden State Warriors, who were undefeated until yesterday. They lost yesterday to the Bucks. But they're still good. You still want to look at them if you're a basketball player. If you're a football player, maybe the Patriots. I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess they're the best team right now. They won last year. Carolina is good. I mean, they got an easier schedule, but Patriots won Super Bowl and they've been pretty good the last like 10 or so years. So, and then if you're MMA, you want to be an MMA fighter. Who do you want to be like? The notorious one, Conor McGregor. No, GSP, no, he's not. But Conor McGregor is he has timing. You would want to work at timing if you look at him and you want to be like him. So today we're going to look at a passage in the Bible. It talks about the Christian life as a race and then the examples that we should follow. So open your Bibles to Hebrews 11:39 through 12:2. Hope you guys all have Bibles. If not, Joey, can you grab some for people who don't have any? It would just be you, Joey. Thank you. All right. 11:39 through 12, chapter 12, verse 2. All right, everybody there? Hebrews 11:39 through chapter 12, verse 2. All right. All right, I'm just going to start reading, and you'll be there pretty quick. So, and all of these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, since God had provided something better for us, that apart from us they should not be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Alright guys, so the first thing that stands out, in verse 39, it says, and all these. So when you read that, like, obviously you think, like, what does that even mean? So you go back to what was said before in chapter 11, and the whole chapter 11 is talking about these people from the Old Testament who had, like, great faith in God, who showed that they had great faith in God, did what they're supposed to do. There's people like Abraham, Moses, Noah, and they all each showed great faith. So Noah showed faith by building the ark, and that took 120 years, and Abraham showed faith by going out of his homeland, where he was from, to wherever God called him to. And then Moses, by being mistreated with the Egyptians. I think most of you know the story of Moses. He grew up as an Egyptian because he got picked up by Pharaoh's daughter, and then he decided to be with the Israelites where he was from, and that showed great faith in God. And so that is important to know, but it's also important to see that in the end of verse 39 it says they did not receive what was promised. And we'll come back to that later, but it's like they showed great faith in God, and they did not get what was promised to them, and that's important to know, like they did everything they were supposed to do. It's like, it'd be like if you guys listened to your parents or whoever it was and they promised to get you like a new car or a new phone and they didn't give you that, and that would suck. But there's a reason, and we'll come back to this later. It's not just like God chose to, he can choose to do whatever he wants, but at this situation, it wasn't just because, it says here that they had great faith, but again, like I said, we'll come back later. So first of all, our first example that the author of Hebrews says is that we should follow the Old Testament heroes, the Old Testament people that showed great faith. Then again, if you look in chapter 12, verse 1, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. So therefore, just as a side note, when therefore is in the Bible, you want to look at what was said before. So just going back again to chapter 11. And chapter 11 talks about the people who have faith. So again, so it's saying therefore, since we have a great cloud of witnesses. So witnesses meaning that witnesses to the faith. Like they showed how we should have faith, beforehand. So the author is saying that we should do that. So before we get to the second example, the author, which by the way, the Hebrew, we don't know who wrote Hebrews. There's no one named in the beginning or anywhere in Hebrews who wrote it. But it says the two things that we should do in order to run the race well. So when it comes to running the race, that I think that means it's to the Christian life. It's calling this Christian life as a race. And the author is, obviously he knew that his readers would understand that the race imagery. Obviously that they either there was like some sort of games back then or like just races and they would understand it. They would understand, that kind of analogy, that running the race. And some of you, I think a couple of you, I know Trevor for sure, he runs track and cross country and when you're running, you wouldn't want to be having a bunch of stuff slowing you down. Maybe you do when you're preparing, maybe you have those weighted shoes or whatever it is. But when you're running the race, you wouldn't want to be holding you down. So the author is talking about two things that could slow you down. And the first thing that I think stands out in verse 1 is sin. And sin might be very, that might be an easy one to say, as Christians trying to live for God, so of course, we got to get rid of sin, and of course, and sin is, of course, you could boil it down as something God hates, that is missing the mark, like the mark of God to live is up here, and, sin is, we're always going to be down here. We're never going to hit that mark, so yeah, that's an easy one to kind of say, we shouldn't sin. But I think that today, in this culture, in the church, in the American church, that sometimes we confuse love with acceptance. We confuse the two. So say, for instance, like, someone tells you, so say you're at camp or you're in a small group or whatever, and someone tells you that they've been struggling with this sin, whatever it is, they're like, hey man, or hey friend, girl, I've been struggling with this sin, with whatever sin it is, fill in the blank, and then they might start crying, and then the other person's just like, oh, I'm here for you, and you start crying, you're hugging each other, and it's an awesome moment, right? Everyone's loving each other. Then that's it. The other person doesn't say, hey, you should stop doing that. You should stop doing whatever it is you're doing. You should stop staying up late. You should stop hanging out with those people. It's more like, I'm here for you and I love you. And we accept, we are called to love each other and accept each other, but obviously in this passage here and in other places in the Bible, we are supposed to get that sin away. You kill that sin. Kill that sin in your life. I think we sometimes we think that just confessing our sin is the big goal, and that is a huge goal. For confessing your sin is that's huge. I remember being in your guys' shoes and confessing my sin to people like Nick or whatever small group leader, and it was huge for me. But I needed to change my life after that. I needed to no longer do those things, hang out with those people, and I stopped hanging out with my friends in high school. I stopped doing the things I did. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing all these things I was doing, and I needed to. I couldn't if Nick were to be like, it's okay, I love you, man, and it's like I go and still do it. That wouldn't have been the goal. We gotta get that out of our life. Sin has the potential of slowing us down, and so get that out of your life. So the second thing that the author talks about to get rid of is in mine it says every weight. You guys might say hindrance or something else, right? So it says weight. So what does weight mean? Because obviously it says weight and sin. So what it could be a weight, I guess like a weight, and when you're running a race, a weight slows you down. So I'm thinking that's anything that could slow you down, anything. So how can you pinpoint these things? Because if there's sin right here and the weight's over here, it literally could be anything. So I think you should but you could ask yourself good questions about specific things is this thing helping me run? Whatever this is that you're thinking of, is this thing helping me be more like Christ? There are plenty of good things in this world that are fine. Whether it be like a job, for instance. For me, I know I had a job once, and it was a seasonal job, and so I was working hard. And it was insane how much I was working. It was years ago, and it was every day. It was during Christmas season, and it was insane. I worked 12 hours one day with no break, and it wasn't physical. It wasn't a physical job, so it wasn't slave labor, but it was kind of 12 hours with no break. It's kind of slave labor. but they paid for my lunch after. They gave me an extra 30 minutes, but I don't know if that was legal. But I was working hard. I didn't care. I wanted to stand out and I wanted to be kept on after. So that's what I was doing. But in the meantime, I was still coming here, but I was like barely making it. Like I was so tired. 'Cause I was doing 2 jobs at the time, and I wasn't really at home. Like I didn't matter about reading my Bible or about praying. That didn't matter. I just needed to get home and get to sleep because I needed to have energy when I went to work. And job's a good thing. A job that I saw that as a blessing from God. Because that would have been great. Because I would have been making like a lot of money at a young age, and I would have been moving up. Because I would have moved up quick if they would have kept me on permanently. That's what I was trying to do. And then they let me go after Christmas, and it was I was depressed. I was sad and depressed. But I look back on it now, and God intervened. God intervened and saw that it was slowing me down. That I wasn't running the race. I was on the sideline. Say, I wasn't running. Like it was slowing me down, and I learned that the hard way. So yeah, a job is a great thing though. A job could definitely be used for good. Like I have a job now, and it's like, it's not the main thing in my life. A lot of you guys know I don't really like it, but it's okay. Like yeah, I'm thankful for it, and God has given me that job. But that's a good thing. Another thing that could slow me down, like I said, I mentioned sports earlier, and I love watching sports, and I love watching football. Football is great, I'm a Charger fan, sadly. They're disappointing me. I'm glad I don't watch their games this season because it'd be a waste of my time. Waste of my time, guys. If you follow football, you know what I'm talking about. Like, they're just horrible. And, but if you think that if I love football so much, I should probably, you think I would do fantasy football, but I don't. And I'll do fantasy football because it would take up so much of my time. Like, it would take up, like, I have so much limited free time as it is. If I was doing fantasy football, I'd have to pay attention to who's playing when. Like, if you guys know what it is, you can pick a different player from each team, for each position. I think most of you guys might know. And I had to pay attention to who's playing who, like what's going on this week, and it would just be taking up my time, and I'd be like so into it, and like, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just know for me, it would slow me down. Like I would just take up my time, And another thing that I know that a lot of guys my age do, and your age and this generation, is play video games. And I can tell you, there was a story, man, like a couple stories from work. This guy I was working with like years ago, he was like, "Hey man, this game came out yesterday, like Call of Duty 45, and and I was like, oh yeah, no way." And he's telling me he stayed up all night to play it. Like he was like, "I didn't get any sleep when we were working early," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever, man." So good. He's like, "So when are you gonna get it?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't play video games, man. I haven't really played since high school." And he's all like, "Oh wow, no way." And he's like, "What do you do?" Like, and I was more like, I kind of laughed. I'm like, I'm shocked. Like, that's the only thing I can do, And I just was like, oh man, I don't know, man. Like, I was more just laughing, and like, and then recently, like, this is like probably within a month ago, this regular customer that comes into work, he's always joking around with me and like laughing and stuff. And he's like, out of the blue, he goes, "Hey man, are you a gamer?" And I'm all, I'm like, "No man, I haven't really played video games since high school." And he's like, "Oh no way, I totally thought you were one." And he's all like, "What do you do instead?" And I'm like, I'm going to school and work. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I work too, man. I still play video games." Like, and I'm like, mind you guys, like, this guy's like 10 or 15 years older than me. He's got a family, and he's just so shocked that I don't play video games. And I'm looking at him like this is crazy. Like, these guys, obviously, it's like, for this guy, it's like his family, his work, and then video games. Like, that's his life. Like, that's how it, like, and then they were shocked that I didn't, and obviously if they could take up my time as well. Like, that would be my life. And video games are good. You can make an argument that some of them are bad, but that's not the point I'm making now. But it would take up my life. Like, it would be like I'd come home from work and just play, and like that guy, like the guy didn't go to sleep at night, and there's nothing wrong, but I know it would slow me down. The limited, like, the time I have, they would slow me down. So, and there's plenty of good things that God has given us, that God has given on earth, it can still slow us down. There's friends, TV shows, sports, extracurricular activities. Like, those are all great things. They're great things, guys. But they have the potential of slowing you down. There's a youth student at our church. He's not in here right now, so I'm trying to guess who it is. He gave up playing the sport that he likes to play, so he can be here on Wednesday nights. And I just think that's amazing. Like, that's great. He saw being here on Wednesday night like more important than playing the sport that he loves. And I still talk to him about that sport. And just recently, he like told me last week that he doesn't do it anymore. And I was like, dang, dude, it's been like a few months. And I was just like, wow. That sport wasn't wrong. It wasn't like sinful or anything. But he just saw it as something that was getting in the way. Like, if he was missing Wednesday nights, maybe he would forget about reading his Bible, or he'd forget about praying, or he'd forget about about God in general, and it'd be hard. But he's decided not to do it. So I just challenge you guys, this week to think about this. Like ask yourselves, am I running? Are there things in your life that may be slowing you down? Maybe you do know already. Maybe something comes to mind. Be honest with yourself. Ask God for courage to maybe get rid of those things. Ask God maybe to show you. If there's something maybe you don't see. Ask God to show you if there's something slowing you down from running this race. All right. So going on, the author has shown us the first example in the Old Testament people, and then the two things we are to get rid of as we run the race. And he goes on to the next example, which is the greatest example. So in verse 2, he says, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. So Jesus, Jesus is our greatest example, and he really is. Looking at this in my translation, I think in the NIV, which most of you guys might have right now, there's a period after verse 1. I like how in my translation it has it's a complete sentence, like verse 1 to verse 2. And I think that's important. I don't think that means anything different in the NIV. I just like how, with it being a complete sentence, it shows how it goes together. And so you look at it, you look how we're supposed to get rid of those things as we run the race. Then you look at what it says in verse 2, and it says, looking to Jesus. Right? You look to Jesus, who went on that cross. So it's saying that because of what he did on that cross, we can get rid of those other things. We can get rid of those other things in our lives, that sin, that weight. And so you guys see the connection here. The connection is that living this Christian life cannot be separated from the death of Christ. And that is huge, and that's what the author's trying to make. And that's just something to remember, because I think a lot of times in our life, even as Christians, we may not purposely try to, but we try to do this on our own, and it may not be, we may not say that we're doing it, but we may try to, live this life, in a way like being good for God, and it's just important to remember that Jesus Christ did it and made it possible for us to live this life, make it possible to, to be like that, to fight our sin. It's because of Jesus, and just remember that, guys. It's because of Jesus. And also, it's important to know that he is it says in verse 2, the founder and perfecter of our faith. The faith that we have in God comes from Jesus. It doesn't even come from us. We don't muster it up or anything. It comes from Jesus. And those of you guys that have been to Hume Lake, or I don't know if we sang the song here, but that song, Give Me Faith. Give me faith. We sing that knowing that Jesus gives us our faith. And that's huge. In Ephesians 2, Paul says, for it is by grace we've been saved through faith, not of ourselves. Not of ourselves, as faith is. And that's important. Jesus gives us our faith, and that makes him greater than the Old Testament examples before. He's greater because all those people that I mentioned, all the people in chapter 11, they point to Jesus. They point to Jesus. Abraham, Moses, and Noah, they all point to Jesus. They all point to him. And he's better. And he's also better because the reason why they didn't even, remember back in 39, it says they did not receive what was promised. That was because of their sin. They didn't see in their lifetime, they were all promised, the promised land and all this inheritance. And they didn't see it because of their sin. And Jesus came and took care of that for us. He took care of that sin. He took care of all that weight and all that for us. And that is why he's greater. He's the greater example. And I think it's also important because sometimes it's also important to see that Jesus didn't want to go to the cross, didn't want to die. Because I think a lot of times, when we say Jesus is the example, especially those of you who have grown up in the church, it seems like, he's the example, all right? I'm going to walk on water tomorrow. It seems like it's very far out of reach. Because he walked on water, he fed the 5,000, he did things that we're not going to ever be able to do. And that's true. He was fully God, but he was also fully man. It says here in verse 2 that he endured the cross and then despising the shame. So he endured it. He didn't go to the smiling, all right, finally, we're going to do it. He endured it. He did not want it. He did not want to go to the cross. And it says that he also despised the shame. There was shame that he felt going to die on the cross, and he felt it. And that is huge. He did it, guys. He died. He died on that cross. He went through it all. He suffered it all and lost it all so that we could gain it all. Going back, to the being the best at the sport that you're in, if there was something that the Golden State Warriors had to do in order to win, they would do it. They would do it, guys. there's something that, some weird thing that Conor McGregor had to do in order to win his fight, he'd probably do it. He doesn't really care about being a unique individual, and he does it, and like, I believe that's how we should act in our Christian life. If there's something that we got to do in order to best run this race, we should do it. And earlier I was talking about giving up things and giving up something that may be good. It may have sounded like I was talking about you giving up a lot. And that's true. That is what I was saying. Giving up a lot. But it is important to see what Jesus gave up. And in Philippians 2:7 it says that about Jesus, that he made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by being obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Guys, Jesus made himself a human being. He didn't have to. He didn't have to make himself a human being. He was fully God at the same time, though. Don't forget that. But he came down here in a man. Like, he was up next to God, at his right-hand side, next to the Father. And he chose to come down as a human being. And he suffered, and he humbled himself to the point of death on a cross. Like, he humbled himself to death. Like, guys, he lost it all so that we could gain it all. So, yeah, there's a lot of loss in the Christian life. There's so much gain. Like, Jesus suffered major loss so that we could have major gain. Like, we gain salvation, we gain life. We gain all of this because of Jesus and what he lost. So just remember that, guys. Like, he lost it all so that we could be brought back to God. And we could have everything. And then that, we should praise God and praise Jesus. Like, that is so awesome. So remember, as you're living the Christian life, remember, take those things out of your life, the weight and the sin. Remember to look to Jesus always. Look to Jesus, as He's the greatest example. And I'm just going to close this in prayer and just think about that this week, guys. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything, Lord. Thank you for Jesus and all that he has done for us and all that he continues to do for us, Lord. The fact that he saved us. The fact that he came down in the form of a man to die on that cross for us. I thank you so very much. I thank you for salvation. I thank you for everything, Lord. And I ask that we remember that, Lord. We remember that Jesus gave it up so that we could have it all. And I ask, Lord, that as this week goes by, that we think about these things that, maybe be in our life that may be slowing us down as we run the race. I ask, Lord, that you may show them to us, Lord. Show them to us, and that we may look to Jesus at the same time. Thank you again for all that you do. I just ask that, as this week goes by, that we remember you. In your name, amen. All right, guys. Can you turn off? Thanks, Jonah.